Hi, today I thought we'd have another look at these ring light PCBs and try and troubleshoot a little bit further. Now if you missed my previous video, I had these ring light PCBs made and assembled at JLC PCB, and the first PCB that I picked out of the box and powered up was drawing the maximum amount of current that the power supply was set to, and that's with no load connected to it. And we narrowed it down to these AL8805 LED driver chips. On the first board we had one faulty IC. I picked out another board from the box and both of them were faulty. The next one was fine, the one after that was also fine, and then I also had another failure on one other PCB. And what I wanted to get to was trying to understand whether this is a problem with my circuit, or whether we have actually got either faulty ICs, or whether there was some handling issue or something like that at the assembly factory. Now if it does turn out to be something like that, we probably won't be able to get down to the bottom of whether it was ESD, whether it was a reflow problem, or whether they were just faulty ICs straight off the reel. Now with regards to JLC PCB, I have put in a quality complaint. So on the website, if you have a problem with the PCB or an assembly order, there is a little button that you can click on and it says quality complaint, and I've described the problem that I've had, and we'll find out what the process is and what they come up with after that. Separately to that, I had a chat with my contact at JLC PCB, and they're going to send me some AL8805s anyway, just so I can get on with the videos. But separately to all of that, I'll be running the quality complaint and seeing what actually happens if you are a customer at JLC PCB. So what on earth have I got going on here, and why is it flashing on and off? So what I thought I would do immediately after the previous video, I had some things that I was thinking about. I was thinking maybe with no load, maybe we cause some spikes to occur that cause the LED drivers to damage themselves. Obviously some people mentioned about the ceramic capacitors, and I did do a video about the spikes that you can get with ceramic capacitors. So we'll have a look at some of that stuff today. But what I wanted to do is try and rule out potentially sort of any damage that could be occurring as a result of the unit being powered up, and maybe we just got unlucky with that first couple of PCBs. So what I've done is I've rigged up a relay to the signal generator, and that is powering this PCB. And this PCB is fully working. This was one of the ones that was working out the box. I've got a piece of strip light connected to one of the LED drivers, and the other one is open circuit, which is how I powered up the first board. Now this has been running for about 2 days now, flashing on and off non-stop, and this is still working absolutely fine. So the current on the power supply is reading what it should do. We've not noticed any problems with the LED drivers, and even the one that's open circuit has not had any strange behaviour, and we're still getting proper output if we probe the outputs there. So to some extent that can rule out the fact that we have some kind of circuit problem, because it's been turned on and off so many times. If we were seeing a problem with spikes, we would have probably expected to see something that has damaged the PCB by now. But what I want to do also is let's have a look at what some of the waveforms are looking like, and just check that we haven't got any overshoot on any of the voltage rails or any of the feedback circuits or anything like that. So looking at the schematic, we know it's limited to these LED drivers because the rest of the electronics is fine. And if you watched my video last year about ceramic capacitors, you'll know that if you've got some ceramic capacitors on the end of an inductive line, it's possible to get some very high voltage spikes on there when you initially power the device up. Now given that these are connected to the V-in rail on this regulator, it's quite possible that if we see a large enough spike on here, then we could damage the regulator, which is what I was trying to test with the little test rig that I had running on the bench, turning it on and off lots of times. But let's have a look at what the waveform looks like here. So I've disconnected the LEDs for now, and this will simulate the original situation that we had on the boards that I powered up, so no load. We'll put the probe on C13 and we will power it up and see what happens. And there you can see we get a little bit of an overshoot, probably about 26.5 volts at the most. If we take a look at the datasheet, what we can see is that the maximum input voltage there is 36 volts. So we're well within that. It's definitely got nowhere close to 36 volts. So you can probably just duplicate that a few more times and just make sure that we don't see anything out of the ordinary. But no, you can see each time A little bit higher there, still not anywhere near to 36 volts. And that's only for about 1 microsecond. Let's just check the other LED driver, although I don't expect it to be any different on those. So that really doesn't look like anything to be concerned about. So the other area that we might want to look at is these ceramic capacitors here. Now, what we actually want to look at is between this node and pin 1. Now, this shouldn't actually be able to get much higher than 24 volts. It would just be 24 plus the forward voltage of this diode. But let's measure the voltage between these two nodes here and see what that looks like. So we've got our probe across that node. Let's have a look at what it looks like when we turn it on. So we've got a little bit of oscillation there, probably because we've got this LC tank circuit effectively. Let's try it again. Similar. And again. Oh, and we have actually got one there with a spike that definitely goes to 30 volts, potentially a little bit higher. Let's try it again. So I've changed the scale slightly on the scope. Let's power it up. So 30 volts there. Oh, we've got a big one, 36 volts. So maybe there is something in it here, and maybe these ceramic capacitors are causing us some problems. Let's try it again. Oh, and there we go. Again, back up at 36 volts. So maybe there's some internal diodes in this device also clamping that, but that does make me think maybe we do need to be a little bit careful with these ceramic capacitors that we've got on the board. Maybe we are causing some damage. Now, obviously I did have this running for a couple of days now, on and off, cycling, but that doesn't mean that we didn't see the odd spike that could slowly have caused some decay of this driver chip. So I'll have a little think about that. Well, just have a quick look under the microscope and just inspect it, just make sure that there's no other issues on the PCB, although having seen some of the PCBs before from JLC PCB with much finer pitch than this, I've never seen any troubles. But we'll have a quick look and then we'll have a think about what we could do just to make this a little bit more robust if it is that either these chips are very sensitive or that we are seeing the odd little spike that could be causing some damage. So we'll just check a few of these boards, but you can see here's one of the LED drivers. No problem with the soldering around there, and the chip itself looks fine. Ceramic capacitors are also all okay. Have a look at the one further up. Again, no issues to report there. Everything all looks in order. Let's have a look at the next PCB. And yeah, that one looks fine. And similarly, no issues there. Let's have a look at one more board. Again, no problems. And nothing of any concern around there as well. So where does that leave us with things? Well, we did see that spike as a result of these output ceramic capacitors that are in parallel with the LEDs. Now, technically, we don't need those. Those are there to reduce the ripple current in the LEDs. But given the high switching frequency of these LED drivers, even if we remove them, we're probably not going to see any ripple that's visible on the camera. So we could quite safely remove those as a precaution. It does still leave me with a bit of a worry about the input capacitors, because our power comes in through here, goes down, we've got our bulk storage capacitor here, but then we've got another trace which goes all the way back around here to those LED drivers, and that trace does have an inductance associated with it, and so we could still see some spikes on here, although I didn't manage to reproduce it with those few tests that I've done here. Now, the datasheet recommends 2.2 microfarads of ceramic capacitors on the input to the DC to DC converter, but it does also say 4.7 microfarads if the supply voltage, I think, is above 24 volts or something like that. We've actually got 6.6 microfarads here, so it might be worthwhile just to remove 2 of the ceramic capacitors from each LED driver and that would probably alleviate any concerns that we would see any significant overshoot. So rather than leave that as an open question, I've just quickly desoldered these output capacitors and also removed 2 from each of the DC to DC converters on the input side. So now we've just got 2.2 mic feeding the circuit. This is exactly how the datasheet says it should be. Let's have a look what the waveform looks like. And even still, we do still get quite a big spike there, up to about 29 volts. Let's try again. And again. So still some potential for problems there. What we could do, if we are concerned that this is still a problem with the input capacitors, is we could put a series element here. We'd need to break the trace at this point here and put a series resistor between here, and that would introduce basically some ESR for this capacitor. The alternative would be to swap this out for an electrolytic, but potentially a little series resistor is an option. However, I'm not 100% convinced that this is actually the issue. When I powered up some of the other boards off camera at the end of the other video, I even managed to find a faulty PCB where I was powering it from 12 volts with the current limit at 40 milliamps. So with a 12 volt supply, there's definitely no way that we're going to see these voltages spike in excess of 36 volts, which could be enough to damage that IC. So I don't think that is the problem. However, I don't think there's any harm in reducing down the circuit to the bare minimum if this still provides us with the functionality that we're after. So I think that's about it for today. If you spotted something that I didn't from what we've seen today, don't forget to leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section down below. I'm probably going to remove those capacitors off the remaining PCBs that I've actually got. We've got some more AL8805s coming in the post from LCSC, and I'll keep you posted on how things go with JLC PCB. I'm not really sure what the resolution there is, because I could see this being open to all kinds of problems. If people complain that they had faulty components, how are they going to say that it's a faulty component or a problem in your design? They're not going to inspect everyone's schematic and work out what's going on. So I would not be surprised if they pass the book back to me, or whether, as a token gesture, they offered to refund the cost of those ICs. I'm not really sure, but we'll see how that goes. In the next video, what we're going to do on this project is solder up some of the LED boards. Those LED boards are looking very nice, so I'm quite keen to get some of those Cree LEDs on there and get one of these ring lights up and running. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thanks for watching.